Good morning. Welcome in, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to day 2. Good morning. Buffalo, New York. Good morning. Ooh, a lot of Buffalo, New York. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Good morning from Mississippi. Wow.
I know. I saw Alabama, Long Island, California. Oh, it's moving so fast.
I know. It's like Texas. Woohoo.
Girl, all typing so fast.
I lived in Texas for
So Brooklyn,
years.
New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Okay, y'all girls. Maryland, Arkansas. Okay, where else? Manhattan, DC, Rochester.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, Georgia. All right, cool. The Bronx, yeah. Oh my God. Queens, okay, I see that. Manhattan, Connecticut. Richmond, Virginia.
Harlem in the house.
Yeah.
That was cute. Good morning.
Where are my folks from Germany? Someone was here from Germany yesterday.
Oh, wow. I didn't see
Yeah.
Germany.
I didn't see. I know it was moving too quickly. Scarsdale, yay! Not too far from Scarsdale, Mississippi, Colorado. Oh God.
Morning, everyone. Anthony here. I go by Tony.
Hi, Tony. Good morning. Welcome.
You.
Oh my gosh, somebody's all the way from St. Vincent. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow. This is
ATL, yeah, Poughkeepsie.
I think finding out where people from is almost as fun as finding out how many Marines are in the audience.
Right.
I mean, normally, how many people? We have 780 participants right now. We should okay, we have to do that. We have to take 1 minute to do this. How many Army are here? How many Army affiliated? Come on, Dani's here. You have to like pump her up. She's starting. She's the first. Terry's the only Army hua. Come on. I know there's more of you.
It's not
Army girl.
Yes, look at all the Army. All right.
Yeah.
Dani, your people, they are here.
Go Army.
What about
Army wife?
Navy?
All right. Air Force.
Oh, Air Force.
Yeah.
Navy. All right, what about Navy? Where's the Navy? Are we gonna get a bigger like shout out than the Army? I haven't seen one Navy person jump in yet.
Fun fact, the Navy has the least amount of divorces. So
what?
Go Navy. Coast Guard. Cattery was like, they were like, I'm, water adjacent. So that's good. We will accept the Coast Guard.
Navy daughters.
Starting the Navy. We approve.
That's
right. The maritime branches are all the best. What about the Air Force?
I did see a few Air Force pop up.
Yes.
Air Force.
Army Reserve mom. All right. Army siblings are in the house. Okay. Army and Air Force. Okay.
Air Force wife. Shout out to our military spouses on the call.
We're no longer the youngest service now. We now have a Space Force. So yes.
That's true. That's true.
We were the youngest service and by far had the best bases and best equipment, best food.
Yeah. Every Air Force base has a Chili's. So think about that if you want to, try. Not Army.
What about Marines? You guys have to show up for me. I'm gonna feel like I did the whole crayon bit yesterday for nothing.
We got a Marine.
Marine. Marine wife.
Yeah, daughter-in-law of Marine. All right.
Yeah.
Marine aunt.
All right.
Everybody's getting represented.
I have to say Space Force because they are a legal branch.
2019.
All right. What time is the break for today? Jeanette, we have one brief 10-minute break between our panels, but because this is a short day, only 2 panels, we don't have a lunch. We're just going to end after the second panel. So that will end, that should wrap around 1:20.
Gay boyfriend of a Marine.
All right. Shakira, do you want to say some words before Sandra leads us in the pledge?
Absolutely. So I just would like to welcome everyone to day 2. And day 1 was quite jam-packed, exciting, and also filled with a lot of meaningful and useful information. So I hope you found the information from the lived experiences, from talking with conversations around moral injury, how to do peer support, creative mind and service, bridging the gap between clinicians and also veteran patients. Hopefully you found that useful. I hope you are taking notes. And if there's any questions or additional questions that you have for today that we did not get to yesterday, please ensure you put it in the Q&A, which is right below your screen. And we will be able to get to them today. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Sandra Moody, who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sandra. You guys are going to have an amazing time hearing from her on our second panel. And we are so excited about these 2 panels that we have curated for you. Amanda, do you want to come up and just briefly go over the CE credits again?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the 2025 Veterans Mental Health Conference. Yesterday's panelists hit the mark on some vital topics, and today's presenters will be amazing as well. National Association of Social Workers, New York State and New York City extends our gratitude to our attendees and to the hard work of the NASW New York State Veterans Mental Health Training Initiative Committee. All of you who are here tonight to learn and expand your knowledge and to gain clarity and resources for the work that you do. Thank you for all your service and the desire to learn more of how to support our veterans, the backbone of this nation. Veterans, we appreciate your time and willingness to engage with us on this topic. This event offers 10 free CE credits for all social workers, LMFTs, LMHCs, and psychologists. You must attend the entirety of the training for the 2 days to receive credits. So if you were here yesterday and your name popped up and you're here today, then you will receive credits. You will receive an evaluation link via email, which must be completed to receive the credits. Submit the evaluation by Wednesday, June 4th, next week. You will receive your certificate by June 13th. You will receive that evaluation link via email from Takara, and it will also be dropped in the chat before the closure of the event to ensure that you all have access. To ensure a smooth experience, we kindly ask that everyone remain muted while the presenter or guests are speaking. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the Q&A and we will answer that. A staff member will also be monitoring the chat throughout the event to make sure that any questions are addressed. We also ask that attendees respect the NASW anti-harassment policy, which will be shared with all of you shortly in the chat. Our goal tonight is to maintain an accountable and respectful environment for everyone and to provide information and resources to those who are seeking it. Thank you all again for being here today. We look forward to productive and respectful conversation, and I'll pass it back over to Melanie.
Okay, excellent. So again, you will be getting the link at the end of today. You have to fill out that form ASAP so that our amazing Niswani staff can do the work of getting you those certificates. But in following up to what we discussed yesterday, if everyone can pause writing things in the chat just for 1 minute. I have just shared the Veteran Book Club form. So if you click that, it will take you to a Google form that you can fill out, and that will sign you up for our Veteran Book Club, which is run by Alyssa Gibbons, the amazing clinician you heard from yesterday, alongside Tim Scott and Jeff McQueen. So that is the link. I will share it again. When you get an email at some point after this conference, you will get an email from Niswanis, probably a few of them. And I will include info@niswanis.com. Questions about the CEs can get routed there. My email for questions about VMHTI or to do panel connections. And please stay involved, because as I will reiterate at the end of the day, we have amazing panels in the fall set up for you with some amazing topics like foreign-born veterans. And we are so excited to present those. And they're, again, in one panel format. So instead of sitting through a whole day, it's just one panel every month for the fall. So again, we hope to see you there, and I will turn it over to Dani. Dani, thank you so much.
Thanks, Melanie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here and spending time with us. My name is Dani Koulermos. I am a creative arts therapist and a KSAC. I work with military families, children. I work with spouses and veterans. I myself is a U.S. Army disabled veteran. I was a military police officer, and when I returned from service to Long Island, I started my my education process with art therapy. I am very happy to not be the subject matter expert today. Although I'm an art therapist, I'm lucky enough to have Tony to be my subject matter expert on family and military life, as he is a retiree. He was a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force, and he had a family of his own on base. And so he'll talk about his lived experience after my presentation. And then we have these wonderful panelists who will tell about their lived experience. We have veterans and active duty. So you can hear about the transition of after the military and what it's like to be in the military with families. I myself also had my daughter the last 6 months that I was in. I did 4 years. And so I have my own lived experience of having a child while in service on active duty. So full of enriched conversation that we will be having. Just bear with me as I try to share my screen because I am not technologically savvy. So 1 second. Can everyone see that? Can I get thumbs up?
You're good,
Awesome.
Dani.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
So for our panel, we are going to be speaking about the different adversities that we face as military members and families, but at the same time, such resilience. We have, this incredibly strong presence and brilliant military, but we also have a strong presence and brilliant military family members. So I'm going to highlight some of the changes, the trends, the cycles that, continue and hope to break, and learn how we can build resilience in our children and our families and work together as a unit. So thank you for being here. I'm going to start the presentation now. Our learning objectives for today is identifying key challenges faced by military families and their children, understanding military culture, the relocation of families, benefits, short-term and long-term impacts on individuals and their families, learning areas for potential resiliency, building adaptability, and generational patterns, like I said before, recognize signs of mental health challenges that children of the military face, including anxiety, social strain, and interruptions of identity formation. Our fifth learning objective is applying knowledge on family systems in correlation with knowledge of the military acculturation and acculturation in order to develop areas for support. And that's where Tony will come in because he is a family systems expert. As of 2023, the US military consisted of 2.86 million people worldwide. There are 6 branches since 2019, being the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and Space Force. The third world largest military active duty comes us. Then, above us is India and China. So we have quite a large military. Our biggest military is the Army, and the top 5 US states that military members reside in is California, Virginia, Texas, North Carolina, and Florida. And why I put that in there is to understand that all of those places have different cultures, they have different base communities, they have different access to care providers, they have different bases that have different different accommodations, right? And so thinking about that, if you're going to PCS, or if you have a military member who is PCSing, and that is changing from one duty station to another, is to know what is in that area, right? What kind of services they may need for their children. And so being comfortable and understanding where our troops are actually stationed throughout the country will help you understand what kind of culture or environment they were in, both physically and also socially. So to show you a map of where everyone is stationed throughout the United States, we have OCONUS, which stands for outside the continental United States. It refers to the duty stations or locations that are not within the 48 contingent states of the United States and the District of Columbia. This includes locations like Alaska, Hawaii, U.S. territories, and foreign countries. When you hear OCONUS, that is a deployment. So deployments can be 6 months, they can be 8 months, they can be 3 years. So depending on where they are, that can be Germany, that can be Korea, that can be Italy. So OCONUS is outside of the United States, and where they can have their family members. Different bases have different rules. I will say that one of the hardships of being stationed outside of the United States is leaving your dog behind, and how that might be so horrible to a child who loves their animal, and they have to stay at home with grandpa or grandma, and they can only visit their pet, when they come back to the States. So kind of remembering that there's different rules and regulations where they go, they can lose a lot of what they once had in the previous duty station. CONUS stands for the Continental United States, and it refers to the 48 contingent states of the District of Columbia. Key regions, so we have the US military oversees 27 million acres globally through the military bases. The Department of Defense manages over 4,790 military sites worldwide, such as areas like the Asia Pacific, Japan, South Korea, Guam, and other Pacific islands, Europe, Germany, Italy, the UK, and other NATO countries, the Middle East, Qatar, Bahrain, and other Gulf countries, Africa, like Djibouti and other African nations, and Central America and Cuba. So different duty stations where families may be able to be there with their military member could be like South Korea, Japan, Germany, Italy, but it may not be able to have their families with them in Qatar or Bahrain. There's different duty stations where you can have family, and different duty stations where it's actually called like a solo assignment or geographical bachelor or deployment would mean that they don't have the capability of bringing their family with them. So we have US troops overseas and stateside. This is just a map of where they are throughout the country. So you can understand that there's deployments all over the place. And so they have different experiences, and they can bring that culture home with them. For me, I was stationed in South Korea. So my daughter gets to see artifacts from when her mom, who was born in the 1900s, was stationed in South Korea. And so she loves that, and being able to be culturally diverse gives them that resiliency that we're looking for, right? Saying that, your parents were in another country living for maybe just a year, it's still that experience that kids like to share in school and be involved in. So it is one of those things that is the best, I think the best part of my service is that being able to have different cultures and be involved in different ethnicity groups and really learn how other people live. So what defines a family? A group of one or more parents and children living together as a unit, and units are very strong in the US Army. I don't know about the other branches. The average military family of the US consists of 2 children, according to Support Our Troops, and according to the DoD, roughly 50% of US military personnel are married and 39% have children. So different challenges that the military families face, like I said before, identity formation, lack of stability, expectations, forced adaptability, anxiety and stress, and compartmentalization of early life stages. So what does that mean? Identity formation would be hard if you're trying to establish who you are as a person and your parent has this very rigid form, of who they are. And so if you're constantly moving, if you see a modeling of one type of parent and maybe the exact opposite in another, you might kind of not know who that you want to be towards. And so it's being around all different types of people, all different branches have different cultures, all different MOSs or military occupation specialties have their own cultures. And so being around all these like variabilities and differentiation, they kind of might not understand who they want to be like. Lack of stability is all the moving, not having one parent in the home at one time, maybe changing the schools, different things, different times in a day where they might be in childcare versus at home. So that kind of lack of stability can really challenge a child in their developmental stages. Expectations, like I said, imagine having an animal for 6 years that you absolutely love and adore, and then next year you are expected to have that animal like cared for by another family member and not in your home. So having to commit to expectations that are far above what a child usually for the general consensus would have to conceptualize and accept. And so they just have a more mature to them. They are, wise beyond their years because they have to have these high expectations. Because at the end of the day, they don't really have a choice. They have to say goodbye to that animal. Forced adaptability. So like I said, constant change, they have to be able to adapt and go with wherever their parents are going. So having that strong family unit, they feel safe in knowing that their parents know best, but at the same time, they have to be able to constantly grow and change very rapidly. So that can cause the anxiety and the stress, and that can exhibit in many ways. And Anthony will definitely be able to better speak about how he saw children display these types of symptoms, as well as the I can't say it, I'm so sorry, compartmentalization of early life stages, of just saying, I had to say goodbye to my neighbor. I, had a best friend when I was in Italy, and then I moved to Germany, and I really loved our time there, but I have to keep, in mind that that is there, and I have to move forward and have a new lifestyle. So having that type of mental fortitude to continue on and learn different parts of what it is to be a human being is so young, is something that you can build in resilience, but at the same time could be a challenge. So as for identity formation, according to Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development of identity, there are 2 main factors. Internal factors, our self-perception, our personality traits, our values and beliefs. Our external factors are our family, our social groups, our cultural norms, our society expectations, and personal experiences. For challenges in the identity formation is that identity crisis I was speaking about before, a period of uncertainty, a confusion about who one is. Role confusion, difficulty defining one's role and aspects of life. Identity foreclosure, prematurely committing to an identity without exploring options. And identity diffusion, a lack of commitment in a clear sense of self. So we can see how these different formations would be either sped up or delayed, or maybe stay in a long time because of that rapid change. And especially for the role confusion, I speak later about women in combat roles and taking them out of the household and what that was like for now the father to step in and be the household in charge of the duties, taking care of the children and rearing them, and how that can be role confusion when other children have a mother at home and a father who's deployed. So different experiences for military children compared to those who are around them. The lack of stability, like I said, For a military family, a child might change schools on an average to 6 to 9 times between kindergarten and senior year of high school. That's a lot of times that a child has to be the new kid, right? Be the one who's going to a school that they were not interested in any of those extra activities, but at the school previously, they had art class, they had music, and this school lacks that type of inclusion. Military families move on an average of 2.5 years per contract. So whether or not that the military parents have contracts for 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, it will really, depend. You can stay longer than 2.5 years for sure, but that all depends on their MOS, the mission of the military, and many other factors. An average length of deployment for a military member is between 6 to 12 months, but sometimes those deployments, like I said, can last 2 or 3 years, like Hawaii, like Korea, Italy, Japan, Germany. So for a multi-generational perspective, the phrase "your mama wears combat boots" gained traction in the 1950s and 60s. It was an insult to someone by implying that their mother was masculine, unfeminine, or lesbian. But in 2013, the ban on women in combat roles was finally lifted, and in 2015 implemented into action. Since then, thousands of women serving in the frontline combat roles, with estimating ranges from 38,000 in the Army to nearly 7,000 in the Marine Corps, all wear combat boots, as I did, and my daughter, is very proud of. So it's not an insult for her, it's more of a pride. But what does that mean for those military families? Like I said, not having mom in the home, having the traditional roles be something that is contrasted can be different for a family dynamic. In 2022, 17.5 US active duty forces were female. So it breaks down: Army, 84% male, 16% female; Navy, 79% male and 21% female. In the Marine Corps, 91% male, 9% female; Air Force, 79% male and 21% female; and for Space Force, 81% male and 19% female. So we're seeing these numbers rise. And at one time, before 1950, women weren't allowed in the military. They had their separate forces, and now we're integrated. And that number going from once was 0 is kind of, is reaching back to that maybe 50% one day. So it is very different to see all the different numbers throughout the years, and they change and they grow, and they, there's ebbs and flows. But it is interesting to see the possibility for women to have these different roles, to be able to have employment growth and professional opportunities that was once never there. Challenges military families face. So the force adaptability. Anthony will talk a little bit later about our favorite acronym being BRAT: brave, resilient, adaptable, and tough. These words are often described for military kids. We talk about how moving around builds their character. We reveal in their ability to make friends wherever they go. We take pride in them being well-traveled, well-rounded, and adaptable. Often, military children and spouses give up their own dreams, privileges, and consents to stay connected to their loved one. And there's very fruitful and beautiful information from the Military Child Education Coalition for anyone who wants to learn more about military children and specifics. Challenges military families face can have expectations of continued service throughout generations and continued honor lineage. Those are the second and third generation military members who, their duty to service, their lineage is connected to that honorable role of being a military member. And so what does that look like for a child who may not want to be a military member, or a child who prepares their whole life to be a military member? So it can definitely vary throughout different family cultures. Military families have a low expectation for quality of life due to constant order changes, duty station moves, prolonged time away from the family unit, constant quick reaction times to change. So being on time 15 minutes prior is still late. Things like that can be instilled in children. And when they move more towards civilian friends, when you're 7 minutes late for a party, you know, you might cause some problems. Military families can also spend years away from the extended families, like the grandparents, the cousins, the family friends from their home of record, while their loved ones serve and are even not allowed to live on base where the military member is stationed. Like I said, those geographical bachelors. So our structural family therapy, developed by Salvador Munchin, is a type of family therapy that focuses on the structure and the dynamics of family interactions to address issues within the family system. It emphasizes the individual's problems that are often rooted in dysfunctional family patterns and relationships. The family aims to improve communication and relationships by resurrecting the family's organization and promoting healthier boundaries, hierarchies, and shared goals. Challenges military face: the anxiety, the stress. All military families are affected by the surrounding military culture, context, and demands, although the substantial variability in degree, right? Lifestyles include frequent moves, transitions, separations, change, saying goodbye to neighbors, being a new kid again, and the aspects of military lifestyle. Children change schools on average 6 to 9 times before they graduate high school, which can cause poor scores and academic achievement or engagement. That's, you know, the sports teams, the extracurriculars, that's music, art, all of those things that may not be available in the next place that they are stationed. Living military lifestyle can be a small world. You might get to see family members again that you haven't seen in a decade. Keeping connected with those little communities will also help when you do come back to a duty station to say, wow, I still have friends here. Service members come and go all the time because of training, deployments, and other missions. Trainings being, you know, they could be anywhere from 1 week to 6 months. So there's a huge variability there. And deployments, like I said, are 6 months, 12 months to 2 years. Gone is gone. In the mind of a child, regardless of why a parent had to go, they're no longer there. And that can cause anxiety and stress that they don't know when they're going to come back. So I spoke about compartmentalization earlier in the life stages, but I'm going to go and move on to, I'm going to move back, military members and children learn from a young age on how to separate conflicting thoughts and feelings as a defense mechanism. Military families understand the stark reality that their parents may die due to their service, and impact of psychological context can be distressing or difficult to process. Therefore, they learn to separate their thoughts from their feelings as if they were isolated parts. This may be a subconscious or conscious process to protect them from the reality or harm, or maybe the danger that their parents could face. Military members who face adversity together, however, have better outcomes of resilience, and because they learn that balance between the risk and the protective factors, to achieve success. So now that I'm all tongue-tied, I am going to refer over to our subject matter expert of today, being Anthony. So please, Anthony, would you come to the screen and share about your experiences as being a counselor with families of military members?
Well, I have to say, before I start out, you keep using the word expert. I'm just an experienced therapist who's done a lot of work with family therapy over the years. I think one of the things that I'm struck by is what you presented as all of the challenges that military families experience. They can be looked at in negative terms, or they can also be looked at in positive terms, in terms of opportunities to reach levels of maturity a lot earlier in the developmental stages of childhood. Interestingly enough, most surveys that are conducted today about families and children of the military is that it's about 20% that really experience or are diagnosed with mental health issues. That means there's 80% of the kids that are out there in the military that doing pretty well. And I think that's something that really needs to be emphasized from time to time. The thing that I loved about family therapy is that it fit my personality. Here I am. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force, and I was a clinician. And I love the logic of family therapy. I love the fact that it is hierarchical. Boy, that's so wonderfully easy to accept, having been in the military. That's what we're all about. And indeed, many of the families that you may come across as civilians, you'll be surprised at the architecture of the family. As far as Salvador Minuchin is concerned, he always talked about the executive branch and then the subordinates, if you will. And I'm not using necessarily his language. I'm more using more military than not. But these are factors that clearly are challenged and upset as a result of the aggregate military experience. One of the things that I really am very, very cognizant of is the whole concept of service. These kids are growing up with parents that are in service. They're seeing the kinds of behavior that are demonstrative of what it means to be in service. And it's above and beyond just the family. And that I think is a very, very important piece for kids as well. The other thing that I like about doing family therapy, and I'm not going to get into a lot of the details of it. I think there's plenty of books out there you can find. Structural Family Therapy by Salvador Minuchin is one of the best. And let me digress for a moment, a little about the family therapy movement. I was trained back in the late 70s and earlys as far as family therapy was concerned. All the grandfathers and grandmothers of the family therapy movement were alive and well then. I went to a lot of their workshops. I shook hands with a bunch of them over the years. One of the things that was really, really fascinating to learn about them, they were all former psychiatrists, social workers, and psychologists who were really concerned about the recidivism rates as far as doing individual work. And most people don't realize that back in the 50s, most states had regulations that said you couldn't have anybody in a therapy session other than your patient. And they went against that. And I think that was a valuable digression from the individual perspective. The other thing that I love about family therapy is, if you think about it, best case scenarios, we as therapists might see an individual maybe twice a week at best, at 50 minutes a session. Well, the family's seeing them the rest of the 24/7. And to engage the process of family therapy is to explore the possibility of creating alliances, family members that will become alliances in terms of what the individual therapy is about. The other thing that I love about family therapy is what I call the both and. Very, very often, I saw children that were starting out individually that are experiencing behavioral problems. Be easy to diagnose it as, X, Y, or Z diagnosis, without having any sense of what the context within which that child was living. To bring in a family and to explore the emotional and psychological ways of communicating, the structure of the family, the interrelationships between the siblings and parents, etc. It gives you an opportunity to determine whether the child with the presenting problem has an intrinsic, organically based problem, or it may be a combination of that plus a symptom of a larger family systems issue, or it could be purely a systems issue. I can remember seeing families at second or third sessions where mom and dad would be talking wonderfully, civilly way to each other, and have a 10-year-old chime in with, "Mom and Dad, you never talk to each other that way at home." I mean, that's a big eye opener for me, and I think it can set the stage for directions you may want to take your clinical efforts. In terms of the military, that happens a lot. I can remember seeing kids in session. I can remember one 13-year-old. Her dad had just come back from a deployment in Iraq. we were talking about what it was like to be a kid in the family. And she talked about, well, she liked being a kid in the family, but what she was really worried about is she wanted her dad back. He was sitting right there in this in the session. So these are the kinds of things that I think are not addressed or easily seen when you're working with individuals. Needless to say, and that's why I've really been, if I'm not an expert in family therapy, I'm certainly a passionate supporter of it. I really think it's a wonderful way to go. Some of the things that I think we need to look at also is in terms of where we're at as a nation. There are approximately 4 million children today that are members of families of the 20 years of war veterans that our country has experienced in terms of the 20 years since 9/11. There's going to be a lot of need for a lot of years for not just the veterans, but for their families as well. And I think that's really important to continue to look at. The wars may be over, but the battles, as far as the experiences these families have experienced, will go on for a long time. The things that I really wanted to also address was that when I work with families, I have military families in particular. I found an integration of a solution-focused therapy to be very good in working with families in the military. One of the cultural differences, I think, in as far as military folks are concerned, and this is a bit of a generalization, needless to say, but many of us are very much pragmatically focused folks. We want, when we put an effort into something, we want some measurable outcomes. And I think that's one of the things that oftentimes ends up frustrating military folks that are in therapy. Sometimes it just seems to be without any demonstrable, measurable kinds of changes, and that's what they're looking for. And I think there's a balance between the clinical perspective on doing work with individuals and families and the pragmatic perspective. And it's that pragmatic piece that helps, I think, maintain the connection between the therapy, the therapist, and and the family. I think that's of paramount importance. The other thing that I like to do too, in terms of working with families, and again, this is found in doing individual work as well, is a healthy developmental perspective. Each person or member in a family needs to be looked at through that developmental lens from time to time. I'm particularly struck by young military families where you have young parents that are maybe 23, 24 years old, and they had their first child when they're 19 or 18 years old, and are really struggling with their own maturation and their own emotional and psychological development. You throw a deployment into that, you throw a combat experience into that, and you really have a struggle that needs to be worked on. And I think one of the things that works well when you can see the parental behavior in the context of a family therapy session, you can do some really good work there. You can normalize behaviors that clearly are spot on and those that really need to be looked at. And one of the things that I'm very comfortable doing, and I think a lot of therapists, if they ever saw me work, would really be appalled, I'm very directive in my work. I really think there are those times when you need to say, take a look at this, rather than the way you're going. And that works for me, that fit for me for many years. And that's what I continue to do when I do work with vets. Other things that I think that we need to look at too is this expression that we talked about, you talked about earlier, Dani, and that was brat. It's really a fascinating. I'm going to date myself. That was very, very commonly heard back, and I think it was generated back in the Army day, back in World War II days, to be honest with you. But it's something that I think most people really need to get a sense of in terms of where a lot of these kids are at. And I have to find my notes here for a minute. Just wanted to find it here. Hang on a second. I've lost my place. At any rate, it's a process. It's an experience again that I think military children clearly have an advantage, and that is while there clearly are those that are wounded by the dramatic changes that take place, many are really, really quite adept at making change and do so on a regular basis. They learn to be more independent at an earlier stage, I think, than most, and really have a sense of can-do spirit, if you will.
I definitely agree. Do we want to move on to our panelists, Anthony, and ask?
Yes, by all means. Yes, I could go on and on. By all means.
I
At
want to
any
hear
rate,
your lived experience as a professional in the field, working with children as much as everyone else, but I know we're on a time slot, so I
go ahead.
apologize.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So
Yep.
I know we have two great parents on the panel right now, three, including Anthony, but we need to have one more added. Melanie, can you please? Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome, our parents. This is the time where I and Tony don't matter, and you guys do. So we want to hear from your lived experience. We want to hear that resilience, that adaptability, that independence, that family bond and unit we were talking about before, and how you were able to instill that. So we understand there's challenges. I spoke about a bunch of them. Let's hear about the triumphs, right? Let's hear about the achievements. And so bring some positivity, because we're not going to end on negativity. We're going to end on positivity. So whoever would like to speak first, thank you so much, Polina, Austin, and Delmar. Welcome. I'm going to have you all duke it out, see which mama bear is stronger than the other.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Delmar Green. I've been married this year will be 43 years. I have 4 daughters and 7 grandchildren. I am a product of the Vietnam War era. My dad served in Vietnam. He was drafted, and he was not like my husband, who served for 25 years. He only did his time, and he finished out because towards the end of his time he was wounded, and then he finished out the rest of his time, of course, in the hospital. So I'm coming to you as a military wife and also a daughter. I First of all, I want to say you guys hit on all cylinders. I was listening, and I was taking notes, and I was yesing, yesing, and yesing. And I was saying that, and so I really appreciate what both, brought to the table. I do have a few things. I want to say that the military has done a tremendous improvement of stepping up their game when it comes to servicing and counseling. I am a military Vietnam veteran era. There was no such thing. We didn't even understand what my dad had gone through, was doing, and it was a miracle by God that my mom stayed in the marriage. And with that, it's 5 of us, and I can look at all 5 of us and sometimes I sit back because I went through the path of being a military spouse. I see the differences and the strengths and the weaknesses. Unfortunately, during that era and even now, you don't realize that, especially because they only did a he did a short time, and everything wasn't where we weren't as educated now. You did not see the damage that was done and to years later within the children. And even now, when I speak to children, because this is my passion, we actually have a team. It's my husband, who's the veteran, my daughters, who are children of him, and then myself, who I work with both. I run into veterans of that era who are children, and a lot of them did not quite do well. And I guess I'm seeing those because I'm helping them. And they wind up, a lot of them, and I don't have numbers, and I don't like to say the word like a lot, but the ones that I've come in contact with, they winded up on drugs, they didn't do well, and they don't, and what really hurts me to my heart is they have no relationships with their parents. Their parents now are in nursing homes and things like that, and there's just no connection. They don't want to have anything to do with their parents. And I try to reconnect them because as they're ending life, I was trying to get I try to get closure with the veteran as well as the children. With that being said, I'm going to move a little forward now, and I know we're pressed for time. My era, myself, I got married young. I was listening, I was laughing. He's spot on. We get married young and we start our families young. Some of us do, some of us don't. But I want to say amongst the enlistees, a lot of times they do. I think they try to create a family within a family. So I think that's why you'll see military guys kind of draw to getting married earlier. That's just my opinion. I have no facts on that.
Definitely not to get out of the barracks. Absolutely.
There you go. So we got married young and we had children young. What the positive, I'm gonna go, we had a roller coaster ride. So my husband was in both wars, the first Persian Gulf War, and then so many years later, he found himself right back over there, which I want to say, when he left the first time, my husband says to me, babe, we will be back. So, with that being said, I'm just going to tell you a few things. Number one, as a spouse, you get married and there's something that you're trained. My husband's a Marine, is a Marine. There's no such thing as was when you're talking about Marine Corps. However, he retired out of the Army. So I kind of yes, he did. He retired out of the Army. Now, I'm going to just tell you this. He said he got tired of working really hard, so he wanted to retire early, so he went into the Army so he could relax to the end of his career. But that's something that y'all have to play with each other. I can only tell you what he told me. So being a Marine, this is what I was taught. And the first era, there was not family readiness like it is now. There was not a lot of things where they really included now. Maybe the Army did a better job, but the Marine Corps had this slogan. If Uncle Sam wanted you to have a family, they would have issued you one in boot camp. Everything that you get in boot camp. And I see you shaking I have been in this thing for 40 something years. So the first time I made the biggest mistake of my life, instead of staying in my military community, I left and came to New York to be with my family. My family had no understanding, no idea of really what I'm going through. So you pull between both. You pull between a military life family and you pull between your family. Depending on the dynamics, sometimes it's better to be in your military community and then bounce back into your family just for support morally, but your military community kind of understand because y'all are all going through the same thing. A third thing that I did with my children that I found worked, I am a Seventh-day Adventist, so we had a strong religious community in the military. They were military, but they were also part of our church. So when we moved from base to base, I connected with the church immediately. So military children, they create a family. So their military family was within our denomination, which led them to always be friends with them no matter where we moved.
Right.
So I think that was a good base, and I'm only telling you what worked for my children. Now, I have 4 daughters, 4 different personalities. I found later on the first 2 were much more adaptable to military life than the last 2. First two had their father more with them when they were younger than the last two. And I can see the differences in decision making, starting life later than the other two. The other two could hit the ground running. The other two, they blossomed a little later. But they did blossom. All my children are professionals. They did very well. Two, like I said early on, the other two, a lot of prayer, a lot of worry, and a lot of, trying to push them to get a little bit of counseling. And, now they're doing well for themselves. And then we can measure what well is. Because a lot of times we measure well with and it's funny, the first two are married, the second two do not do well in relationships. So
First committed too young.
right. So I just want y'all to know that that you can measure what you consider well. I will say this. They do a lot of things that was said as far as them adapting, change, all of the things that we do learn as military children and families. You got to do a relationship check. So my daughters, they are trained. They can, on a drop of a hat, they function well in chaos. If there's not chaos, maybe they could create chaos so they can function well. They also, I notice about them, they can adapt to anything. And they're very independent. So now when you're looking for a relationship. And my daughter, she's really good. She'll tell you, they all have had to go to therapy.
Good.
All of them had to go into therapy because there are certain things that they consider normal, just like in the military that my husband thought was normal. It doesn't fit in civilian life and in family life. So just to give you my husband is very mild-mannered on when you see him, but he is very indoctrinated in the military. He's Marine and Army. So it was right. So let me just give you some subtleness. So it's not a matter of when you look at TV G.I. Joe and you see, oh, he's gonna take the park and he's got his family boarded up in the house, and now he has PTSD and no one can come in, no one can come out. It doesn't always work like that. When you find out, you discover that there's a significant change in personality, change in what he does, and it can be subtle. And when my husband, the first Persian Gulf War, when he came home, I saw that, and I didn't say much, but the temperament of his anger was different, and I tried to talk to him. What changed with him is when we got in one time, and I tell the story.
I want to hear your story,
Oh,
Delmar.
I'm sorry.
Everything
Time number one.
You are a wealth of knowledge. We do have Polina and Austin, and I want to be fair to the time.
Got you.
Thank you for all of your wisdom and experience.
Okay.
Absolutely love that your husband got the glow up and retired from the Army, and had both life experience, because the military, those branches are very different too, right? The Army is very encompassing, the Marine is very individual. So that will affect the family style as well, as his training will then bleed into, his home life. So thank you for those experiences. They were wonderful to hear. I do want to ask Polina or Austin to share next. And if we have time, we'll go right back around. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I am Polina, and I love ending or continuing on positive notes. I'm all about the positivity because there's enough negativity in life. So a little bit about me. So I am actually still an active duty Army officer, and I'll hit 9 years in July. So I say I'm young in my career because I'm not quite that veteran that people expect of, but I'm also young in my role as a mom. I have 3 kids, 8 as of 2 days ago, 4 and 2. So I have some small people. And we are also in the lucky process of PCSing, permanent change of station. So we're getting ready to say bye to our home in Texas, where we've been for just under 4 years, and then get ready to move to New York. So I know I'm
Hopefully not for drum though. Is it for drum?
No, I'm going to West Point. I'll be teaching at the
Oh,
United States Military Academy.
scared me. All right, girl. Yeah, do your
Not
thing.
from. But so we've had I have small humans, tiny humans. Someone once told me, like, you do a great job with tiny humans. So with my tiny humans, we have a lot of what people think of as adult conversations because growing up, I always spoke to them. I gave them the truth. So we've been explaining that, look, we have to move because of mommy's job. So we don't treat them as we're going to hide information from you. We treat them as you're a member of this family, and it's important for you to know what we're going through with together. So what that means is that my daughters, my oldest two, they're very excited for New York. They apparently don't like Texas anymore, even though they've had a blast. But for them, they're excited for the next journey, which is great. Baby boy, he's 2, he just goes along with whatever they say. So that means that we as parents, my husband and I, have done a great job. Now, he and I are very sad and upset, but we try to share those feelings with each other and not in front of them to not affect their perception of our move. One thing that we really focus on to help build their resiliency is sports. Because if you learn to do sports, whether it's individual or team sports, you face different obstacles. And when you face an obstacle, it doesn't mean you have to stop. You just have to change the way maybe you do your soccer move or practice judo and wrestling a little bit differently. So my kids, they always end up playing with kids who are older. And so they've learned early on that, okay, I didn't do this correctly. I maybe failed, but it's not a loss. We don't have wins and losses. We have wins and lessons in all our sports. So they kind of understand that, okay, with that sports background that we've had going forward in New York, we talk about things like, okay, you're going to have different teams that you're on, different friends. And so again, that helps them understand that I'm not necessarily losing the friends that I have. I'll always have them, but I'm also excited to be on different teams and different organizations. And I also got that from my husband because he as well is a military child, also served in the military. And he said, you know what, sports is kind of like a universal language because if you have a capability to do something, you can kind of find that new language with a new kid. So I thought, okay, like I'm not as sporty as you are, although throughout the years through my competitive family, I apparently am very sporty now. But we kind of use that as our language to, again, help the kids understand that, change isn't bad, it's different. And then talk about it that when you meet people in different places that may not have your experience, you can share with them what that, oh, you've lived in Georgia or, back in Texas, you really enjoyed kolaches, for example. And so I think I've never seen them be upset or mad or sad about these moves. It's always kind of like, okay, what's next? I want to go explore. I want to take these trips. And so I'm very glad that so far they're not mad about the lifestyle that we have. Now, I told you, right, my husband did serve and he's actively embraced being a military spouse. Being a military spouse is hard. It's also harder when you're a male military spouse because a lot of the focus is always expected that it's the male as a service member, not the female. It's not the female who is her career is the priority. Luckily, he's been very from day one. He said, "No, I've had my life. I've had my path. It's all on you." But what that required of me is to actively listen to his dreams, goals, aspirations. And a lot of times, a lot of his goals were probably not reasonable, unattainable, they weren't smart. But instead of me telling him, hey, you can't do that, I don't think you should, I just let him talk. I let him talk. I let him plan. I said, okay, maybe you want to pursue this educational path. Okay, go ahead, think about it. Sometimes he came around and realized, you know what, it's not for me. But there's other passions that he's had. So he was really interested in, he's like, I should have a podcast. I should have a podcast. And I said, okay, well, why don't you research it? A podcast is something you can maintain as we move. And so there was a little financial cost upfront, very minor in the grand scheme of what he could have gone and purchased, like a car or who knows what. But it's been 2 years since he started his podcast and it's made him happy. And so by hearing what he wants out of life and what he would like to do, again, he came to his own realization that, okay, maybe this is or isn't for me, but it's also allowed him to see that, okay, like I have a supportive family because everybody now, all the kids are like, oh, Papa likes to talk a lot. That's why he has a podcast. So we've allowed together as a unit to see what, okay, so here are the kids' interests, here's dad's interests. And so it's really helped us have kind of positivity and fun as we navigate things like, oh, our household goods have to pick up. We have to figure out where we're living with such a large
Broken
family and
things,
all our dogs.
the broken things that happen in the household move of the
Right,
household.
right. Yes. Not it will be fun in 6 weeks or so once we're settled or however long it takes. Not right now. And another thing what we do is we always try to focus at the big picture. Because yes, right now I like to say I'm having a great time. I just finished my master's degree at UT Austin, paid for by the Army, and I'll be going to teach Russian at West Point, which is, it's a great career opportunity. But that doesn't mean I've had bad leadership at one point in time or assignments that didn't really suit me or didn't allow me to thrive the way that I knew I could. So we always on bad days are like, "Ah, why are we doing this? Why?" And we focus, okay, so goal number one, right? We wanted, I wanted an income, or goal number two, I wanted to have, because I've had all three kids on active duty. That means all my babies were free. That was important for me because I've heard about the struggles of people still paying off having children years later. And now it's that, okay, so I found out you could pay for one degree. Okay, now maybe you could pay for a PhD down the road. So we just think about things that, yes, it's important for the Army career, but also how will this help us as we go forward once I am no longer in the military, and how can it help our family unit? So things like that really help us. And we talk about it again too, between my husband and I with our kids, whenever they say like, oh, mommy, why do we have to do this or that? And we say, well, how, other families do this, we do that, it's okay. And so they're like, okay, but again, it's us treating them as equals and not necessarily saying like, oh, you don't understand this. And sometimes they'll have more questions. And so of course you do it in a manner that's like age appropriate. So I know there were some great points about they're more mature. And I definitely see that in my oldest, because when kids at school are playing and they start fighting about soccer, she says, the teacher said, yeah, she just steps away and waits for the conflict to be over because she knows it's not really going to be successful for her to argue. She's like, I just wait until they're done. I just want to play soccer. Like that is my goal. Um, so I don't know how much time I have. I know I also want to be respectful, but those are just like three main things when I come to think about what we've done. And again, we still have a little bit more than half of my career in the military, but I think so far, we think we're doing the right thing because we do see our children thriving and successful. So, and
Well, thank
I'll be
Yeah.
happy to answer any questions unless you see.
Polina, if I may
comments.
make a comment, I think one of the things that I see in you is a manifestation of what the military has become for a lot of women. It really, really is a good place for opportunity. Regrettably, there's a lot of negative coverage of things that go on in the military. But I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I didn't serve over there, but I was in the military in 1973 when the draft ended and women started coming in. And what women are able to do now in the military is just a dramatic change from the way it was. And I think that's something that really needs to be explored and expressed to the civilians out there who are thinking about working with military folks.
And women services are so drastically minute compared to male. So we do need providers for our support and understanding our, niche as being a minority in the military, but strong as hell anyway. And
Yes.
you're definitely, an example of that, of leading from the front as a woman and seeing for other women and children to see that as well. I know when I was on the gate as an MP, having a school bus of children and seeing little girls go, women can be in the army. She has a gun, was like, I was like, yes, I've made it, and so I definitely, empathize and can relate. But it is extremely difficult to be both leadership, you know, in the military, especially as an officer, as well as being a mom at home. And I'm glad that you guys have made that, you know, connection together and that respectability of everyone in the family, and telling your children you may not know everything about a mission, but you know enough to say this is what they can, you know, they can swallow or they can digest, gives them that autonomy of like, okay, I do know what mom's going through. I do know where my dad's going to be. And that anxiety will be less, you know, drastic or accumulate over time because they don't have anything to be anxious about. They know what's going on. They're involved in the family. So I give you a lot of props and praise for, you know, how you've chosen to raise your tiny humans. In 2025, it's not easy, and you know, sticking it out, and you know, and being that, you know, woman in a male space, you know, it's not easy. So, you need all
Absolutely.
the strength that you could get.
And if I can add just one point. So, Tony, you hit on it, right? So, opportunity. So, if you haven't, I don't have an accent, but my family came from Russia. And my mom said she left Russia for the land of opportunity. So, growing up, that's what I heard. And I thought, well, this is the country that you take advantage of opportunities. So, that's one point. So, I'm always, if it's offered to me, I'm going to try it. Let somebody else tell me, no, I can't do it. And the second thing is that, lost my train of thought, but it's okay. It's okay. It'll come back to me. But I think Delmar has a question. I know Austin also.
Polina, can you throw
Yes.
your husband's podcast name in the chat? A few of the audience was asking.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I will.
I don't have a question. I just want to comment on an amazing job as a woman that you're doing. I'm on the other side. All my children are grown, but the key thing that you said that continue, the honesty. That was something that we were completely honest. When my husband left to go to the war, I said, honey, do not tell these kids that you're going to come back home because you have no control over that. Be honest. You want to come home, you choose to come home, and you're going to fight to come home, but anything can happen. And when you're honest with your children on all scales and let them be a part of your of the committee, because we would have family meetings, you'll see your great results. I'm so proud of you, and I hope at some point when you're in New York that we get to meet up.
Bigger family, bigger. See, that's why he chose Army, because the Army, we just bring you in. All family here.
Austin, you better respond to that.
I agree. I listen to me.
Austin, what are you?
I agree. I totally agree. He brainwashed me with the Marine Corps, but when we became in the Army, I was so happy. When he left the second time with the Army, they gave us all this information. They told us so much stuff. They brought us in. I said, honey, this would have never happened in the Marine Corps. I loved it. So I will agree with that. I still love my Marine Corps, but I love the inclusiveness with the Army, with the family.
Yes. Thank you, Delmar. Yeah, of course. I'm hoping Austin's a Marine. I don't know. What are we? He's a Marine. All right. Okay. Semper Fi. Semper Fi. Austin, as a father, I want to hear everything.
I don't know how I'm going to follow these two up from the father side of it, but so name's Austin Cardwell, Marine Corps, 12 years, just got out little over a year ago, got out of the gunnery sergeant. I was part of that married young, had a child young, married at 20, child at 21. So my son now is 9, going to be going on 10. And going with resilience and how he grew up throughout it, and seeing my wife was the rock star in all this, because especially when I was gone all the time, and especially while I was on recruiting, which was where he developed his most, she had to step in and fill a lot of the roles, because I would be gone in the morning when he wakes up and be home when he's asleep. And honestly, that was probably even almost worse for him, because he would see me every now and then, but I wouldn't be there, because it'd be, hey boy, all right, gotta go to work.
That's so
But
tough.
watching him grow up through that has made him mature so much, and his growth from that into what a fine young man he is now. So through the whole military experience and his growth, there's a lot of tools that we had to utilize to help him with that through therapy, constantly changing schools, especially with him having ADHD and a whole bunch of other, well, not a whole bunch of other, just ADHD, constantly losing focus, jumping all over the place. He's had to adapt, and the constantly changing environment has made him learn to always embrace change. It even got to the point where after we got out, we were all talking about how we're used to moving constantly. We just bought a house, moved here, and then after a year being here, we're like going, all right, where are we moving to next? And we had this whole plan of already moving. It's like, why are we doing this?
It's just patterns.
So, patterns. But the whole in love of the Marine Corps and how they encompassed us. And after we got back to 29 Palms from recruiting, the people there, it was a family away from family, to the point where we all gathered up, and him making friends with people who had shared experiences. Because while in recruiting, we were away from the military aspect of it. He didn't go to school with other service member children. He was going to school with civilians.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, they don't understand, oh yeah, I'm moving in X amount of time. They're just staying there. So it's the constant change of friend groups where he's learned to adapt to make friends quickly. Always be outgoing, personable, where a lot of kids always hang out with the older. My son always tries to help out the younger. He's always hanging out with kids 1, 2 years younger than him.
How sweet.
And helping them.
So he's already in the leadership position.
Yes.
Which is great, you know. It shows his confidence.
But a lot of that, majority of the credit I have to give to the wife.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's wonderful too. You know, we all have our roles in the family, and you're providing safety and an income and a housing, you know, for them to then do the rearing of the emotional and the personality and things like that. You know, that safety, that they're in a house and they have food on the table and they have a place to live, and that's where you can have the stepping stone of everything else. So, you know, and especially if your children have special needs like ADHD, you know, advocating to have those specialties and education is really important. And so I'm glad that you can, you know, identify that and say, hey, you know, we need these qualities for my child to have the best quality of life. Any other insight that you have that you want to speak on?
Honestly, it's more of just be open. We've had a talk with him multiple times, open communication about what's going on. Hey, I'll be home here, I'll be doing this. And then once, utilize the time you have actively.
What do you mean? Oh, like when you're with them? Like,
yes.
with them, try to like instill memories kind of a thing?
Instill memories, be present with them. It's learning to adapt, because it's more of, you're gone constantly, to the point then, so when you're there, you want to make your moments there with them mean something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it is just, you don't have to go out, spend thousands of dollars trying to make these memories. Sitting there, cuddling on the couch, watching movies, playing board games, card games, go to the park, things like that. Being involved in their life in the moments that you are there, having those positive experiences.
Austin, if I may, you're out of service a little over a year, did you say?
Yes.
What's the transition been like for you and your family?
So my transition going out, it was rough at first. The first 6 months was probably the worst. The loss of connection, the loss of any support, missing waking up in the morning, not having to put the uniform on, missing the friends, the people that you see as family, your chosen family, the people that you're connected with.
Yeah. Yeah. Austin, if I may, for the audience out there, for those civilian therapists that are out there, make note of this. If you come across a military family that is just transitioning, that is one of the most difficult times in crossing the bridge between the gaps between military life and civilian life. So be conscious of that, and certainly explore that issue if it fits at all present. So I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, Austin, I interrupted you.
It's all good. Yes, Delmar.
I'm you're so focused, and I want to tell you, I'm glad he asked that question because my husband did that. At 12 years, he got off the Marine Corps. No, 13 and a half. He couldn't do it. He had to go back in. And I saw how much I wanted him out. I fought for him to get out because I said, I cannot do this anymore. And when I saw what it was doing to him, I said, okay, babe, go back in. Go. And then that's when he went back in the Army. I want to say a couple of things. Not only are you transition out, your whole family, your wife is accustomed to certain things, even the kids. I remember my daughter was devastated because at 13, you get a military ID. And she really was looking forward to that simple thing of getting a military ID. And when my husband got out and she knew she wasn't going to get it, she was like, but I've been waiting all these years for a military ID. So I want to just tell you, really. So I want to tell you, just watch everybody because this change affects even me as a wife, where I thought I wanted him out so bad. I saw where it was affecting me too because I had gotten accustomed to a military community. So there are peer-to-peer groups out there, and I'm just want to throw this at you. That they can talk to. They have them for children of veterans, they have them for spouses, and then they have it for the veteran themselves. So you might want to connect to some of those things too. And then also maybe you might want to do some volunteer work in veterans groups, and they might as well. That might help with the transition.
Absolutely. Thank you, Delmar. Those are beautiful points. The peer-to-peer aspect of I know what you're going through because I've been there myself. And if I don't know what you're going through, I'm just going to sit here and listen are super important. And having those communities that, you feel seen and heard from are super important. And hopefully there's some around you now that you've transitioned out that you can stay connected with, unless you move for another year and then you have to try to find it all over again. With the housing, in all the states, go everywhere, why stay in one place? I go, I'm just kidding. But however that works for your family, right? There are transient lifestyles all over the place. There's a lot of the, van living and, tiny houses. And so it's not so strange to hear that a family unit would want to keep on moving if that was your choice. But you might find your roots somewhere and your family can prosper, and that would be amazing as well. But thank you for sharing your experience, Austin. It's important to hear from a male's perspective and the military member. It's important to honor those who are your chosen family and your tribe, and the people who really carry you when you're not there, like your wife has, and instilled those, respectable things that and traits that you wanted in your son, to continue on, which is amazing. And not only that, we have this phenomenon here in America in 2025 with phones and iPads, and being present with your children because you're not away, like because you're not with them or you are away so much, will really show them that they care, you care about them, and you have those meaningful moments. But don't forget to take pictures and then chuck your phone back in your car and enjoy, the day with your kids, because they grow up so fast. I also have a 10-year-old, and it just, I look at her, I'm like, where did the time go? And so I'm sure Delmar feels the same way, and Polina and Anthony, whose baby is 50. And he probably still is like, where's the time that has gone? So having those meaningful, experiences together that are memorable, and if not memorable, they're documented in photograph or video, and saved for you, you know, and so you can look back on it and say, wow, I'm really proud of what I've done with my children and what you want your future to look like. I am gonna just quickly share another slide because I do want to end on a positive note, but I don't want to forget this one section. So let me just share that really quick, and then if we have some extra time, we'll go back into our panelists. So for the areas of support, these things that our wonderful parents have already really touched on how they were able to adapt to the military lifestyle and keep their family unit moving. Keep communication as open as possible, making efforts towards maintaining an open line of communication with children and their parents through email, texts, letters, photos, audio and video calls. We're very lucky to have that ability. Back in the day, letters were the only thing that children could get from their parents, and maybe some photos. Now we can video call and have group chats on videos, and really stay connected. Have conversations that are developmentally appropriate and maintain OPSEC, which is operational security, so that they can have an idea of what the separated parent is doing rather than worrying about possibilities of danger. Maintain a routine. Structure and routine are important to children to feel a sense of schedule and expectation that helps them relieve anxiety of the unknown. Committing to a dedicated mealtime, bedtime schedules, phone calls, and homework is really important to help children feel safe in repetition. Comfort and self-soothing, establishing safety plans for children to be able to deal with difficult transitions and emotions by creating safe spaces and practicing self-care activities. Creating rituals that can de-escalate powerful emotions and process difficult thoughts and feelings. That can be journaling, it can be art making, that can be drum circles or just shaking it out in a family dance party in the living room, but being able to really de-escalate instead of internalizing those emotions will help them be able to become a stronger person, and be able to have that conflict resolution as they move forward. Seeking professional counseling, it is something that Delmar had mentioned, you know, being able to process with a professional in a safe space to address the child's needs that are being met emotionally and mentally if symptoms of depression, anxiety, or substance use have a noticeable increase or impairment. And I know Delmar had also spoken about substance use, which is pretty high in the children of military members as a population itself, due to maybe not being able to express themselves or process their the adversaries that they were facing in their family unit. Areas of support that are effective for military families are holistic care, having cultural competency, being in the military and where they're stationed, person-centered approach, family and marriage counseling, as Anthony has spoke about before. That family unit counseling is so important to have that better understanding of the unit. Solution-focused treatment, like we said, we want pragmatic. We want to have solutions for our problems, and we also, if we are moving all the time, that solution-focused treatment is short-term, so it also is quite effective. You don't have to worry about finding a new counselor in a different place if you're moving. Short-term and long-term treatment. Sometimes short-term just for the bits and bobs that we can't get through. We need a little support. Sometimes long-term treatment is needed for those who have more layers of trauma, more that have more increased symptoms of depression, anxiety, or morbid disabilities or cognitions. Grief counseling. Grief can be something that is a process that's not linear. And so therefore we can go back and forth in this process of accepting or we all know the stages of grief. So having counseling for the feelings of what grief can come can be really important for families who have had unfortunate, you know, the Gold Star families, those who have lost family members and have had traumatic experiences that they are still grieving for. That counselor would be specific to that one issue that maybe the family counseling wouldn't be able to decipher on its own. and the addiction services for those who are suffering and need the additional support. Other areas of support, like we said before, is building that community of care, the continuum, the targeted services to meet this needs of our population being military families. So the VA, medical centers, having access to care, outside referrals for community care options, veteran centers, vet to vet connection, which is that peer, the military child support, military caregiver spousal support, veteran-based communities, housing, supportive services, food pantries, childcare services, holistic opportunities for those who do not align with the medical model, evidence-based practices, and nature-based environments, so that we can try to instill this healing and hope in everyone. So I do want to thank everyone for attending our panel. This is my email if anyone wants to reach me. I'm going to leave it up for a little bit. I wish I can figure out how to toggle back, but I don't. So I'm going to put it in the chat so we can see the rest of our panelists if they have any last words. Thank you so much for your time. I know we have 7 more minutes, so I'm going to stop share. Do we have any last words of wisdom for our 861 participants who are listening today?
I just want to express gratitude for all the positive feedback you all have shared. I will say that I often do, people like to tell me a lot, like, I can't believe you did that. I don't know how you do it. I think that my whole life has been, I don't know how you do it. And honestly, it's like, just do it. So I'm a big believer that just apply for things, because let somebody tell you no. Don't be the one to doubt yourself. And so I just got my master's, and people are like, you did that with 3 kids and your GPA was this. I was like, yeah, I mean, it had to get done. The kids, they still need their mom, so I need to be there for softball. I need to see them, because if I'm not at practice, it's like, where's mama? She didn't see me. It doesn't matter that dad was there. The biggest thing is that mom didn't see. So yes, that meant sacrificing when I wrote my papers, when I did my reading, how thorough I did, understanding what can I accomplish without burning myself out. So I appreciate the feedback, and my goal really in life is just to be that mentor for females, especially for young female officers, because yes, you can have a happy marriage. You can have kids if you want. You can have 3 kids, because apparently that's a lot nowadays, people tell me. You can pursue your educational aspirations. You can chase your fitness. You can do things, and people shouldn't tell you no. So it's all about that. We talk about resiliency for children, but honestly, build that resiliency for yourself. So whoever you interact with, whatever family members, like, help them understand that they can work on their resiliency, they can work on their confidence. And once you don't care about what other people think about you, which is what I tell my children, I say, if someone doesn't like your hair or doesn't like your braids, that's fine. Do you like your braids? Are you happy with how it is? Because I see you doing your hair toss. I know that you feel good about yourself. So you don't need to always focus on what other people think. It's what you think, what you want. So go get it. Go get it, girl, as I tell my warrior ladies. But whoever it is, just go get it. The world is full of opportunities. You have to find them, ask about them, talk about them, and then share that positivity and those opportunities with others. So maybe it doesn't work for you, or you can't do it. Well, then say, okay, hey, let me text so and so and say, just thinking of you, maybe this will help you. And then you can inspire others to pass that on, and then they can be their best versions of themselves. So thank you all for having me today. It was great to be here.
Thank you so much, Polina. And I can see why you're trailblazing, both on and off the field, or both on duty and off duty. So thank you so much. Austin, Delmar, Anthony.
I just want to say thank you so much. 2 things. One of the things I taught my children with resilience is not just is pushing through and getting to the other side. And I used to tell them that all the time. You're going to have things that's going to come at you, but the main thing is to work through it, and then you'll get on the other side of it. The second thing that I wanted to say to everyone is counseling, peer to peer or clinical, but I say this all the time to my children and to other veterans and to their families. Even you take your car for preventative maintenance. Nothing doesn't have to be noticeably wrong, but you still should just take your family together and do some preventative maintenance. And I found that that has worked with us because throughout our marriage, throughout the children, we've always been into some sort of, even if it's workshops, if it's counseling, but preventative maintenance also maintains your car better than when everything is broken and goes wrong. So my thing is preventative maintenance is a great key and a great factor. And then always note that if you have more, your wife is different than your children, and your children are different than each other. So what may work for one may not work for the others. So like a fruit basket, try different things for your children and for your family. And I love this. This was an excellent, excellent panel, and you guys rock.
Thank you, Delmar. I'm so proud to have everyone on this panel and speak to their experiences today. Austin and Anthony?
Yeah, I have, I want to say thank you, and I also want to make an appeal. Thank you for choosing to be a part of this day and a half webinar. And I want to make an appeal in terms of something that all of us in the military, whether on active duty or veterans, have heard time and time again, and that's thank you for your service. I dare say that if you choose to work with us, we'll be thanking you for your service. And I hope that those of you who are out there who have just been flirting with the idea of working with military folks will get on board and do just that. Thank you so much for being a part of this day and a half.
Thank you, Anthony. What a wonderful, what did you say? What did you call it? Not an alibi. What did you say?
I'll appreciate a moment of appreciation and also an appeal.
Appeal. There it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, an appeal.
Yes.
To those who are brave enough to take on us veterans in the mental health
Here,
space.
here.
Austin, any last words? You got 2 minutes of prime time.
Just thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone listening, being here. One of the things that always push forward, one of the things my son actually says, it's not that you can't do something, it's that you won't do something.
Very true.
So keep pushing forward, regardless of whatever situation you're in. Keep pushing forward and look for that better forward, that better direction.
Yeah. And reminding them it's a dance as well. Sometimes we got to move back to move forward, and we also need to transition, back and forth, side to side. So thank you so much for everyone's time.